So as of recording, it's been exactly a week of the 2042 Leviathan Rising event for Season 4. We're nearing the last week of it, and then it will be gone forever, unfortunately, and I have been really enjoying it, don't get me wrong, I stated this last week, but there are a few more thoughts I've had on the mode, and its flaws have started to show a little bit since the start of it. And today I'd like to talk about it. Now, don't get me wrong, as I said, I love this mode. I think it's a huge step up from the other 2042 events. This one blows Leviathan Rising. This one blows Liquidators, Battle for Nordvik, all of that stuff out of the water in terms of content, mode, and in terms of cosmetics and progression. And also in terms of having a sense of place with the mode inside the story and the setting. First of all, let's go over the good stuff. I am happy to report that the gameplay loop has remained just as fun and competitive as it was last week on Tuesday. I'm still hopping in with friends and playing this mode and trying to defend the lances as we put them down and beat the opponent's score or time, and I think that is what gives this the edge over the other events, mostly, is that the actual mode itself is fresh. We haven't seen anything like this in 2042 thus far, no round system like this has. Rush technically has a swapping side system, but it doesn't keep track of rounds and it isn't as concise and compact as Shutdown is. I really want the actual mode itself to stay around after the event, but I have a feeling that it's going to be gone forever, which is quite sad because it's a really good one. From my original video and reaction to the trailer, I didn't like the cosmetics too much, but now I'm quite a big fan of them, especially this week's it's brought in the Dozer set, and I think this one looks pretty great. I'm very tempted to buy this one because my current Dozer setup is just the foliage skin from one of the other battle passes. I think that looks pretty nice, but it would be nice to have this option as well. I think weapon skins might be the biggest draw for me though, because some of them genuinely look really good. Player skins are right for the most part, but overall I'm not upset like some of the community are with how these look. They do stand out a little bit and I won't be running them mostly for that sake, but if you want to get them, go for it. I understand why. The aesthetic is definitely an interesting one. Not for me in terms of the Pike and Irish sets, but I understand why some people do like it. Now let's get on to the main problem that I have with the mode, especially in week 2. Now I mentioned last week that the maps might rotate next week, which is now, and I can confirm that they haven't. We're stuck with the same 4 map rotation, and that kind of sucks, I'm not gonna lie. Don't get me wrong, these maps are pretty decent. Some of them range from good to kind of unbalanced, and I'll get into that in a second, but a refresh of maps would really have kept the mode interesting over the 2-week period, because a lot of people are dropping out a little bit more now. I've seen on social media saying that they're only going to grind for the cosmetics and then they're going to not really hang around because the maps are the same as they were last week. There's not that much variety. We've got Exposure, Manifest, Stranded, and Flashpoint, and that's pretty much it. A couple more maps in that rotation would have been really appreciated for this week to give it a bit more variety. And I'm not sure whether it's just a lack of time to implement the mode into more maps, but we're just not going to get that. Now, I also mentioned some of the maps feeling a little unbalanced, and this only rears its head in a couple of them. One of those is Manifest, where the high points of the map are incredibly powerful, and you can dominate if you just sit on top of them, and you can even see almost directly into your enemy spawn, and spawn trapping is a real problem on this one. I feel that Stranded is actually slightly better in some cases. Enemies can spawn trap the doors, but eventually you'll push through with enough explosives and well-timed assaults, so that one isn't really too bad. Exposure, I feel, suffers from the open area out on the helipad where one of the objectives is. People can sit on top of the main building and just kind of fire SPH rounds at the target area and deny it for most of the game. I'm guilty of doing that in my last video, but it is such an effective strategy and it pays off so well on this map and makes it a little unbalanced when you're trying to plant there. Not to say it's impossible, because it's not, but I've also seen a lot of people claiming that they've had balancing issues on these maps, particularly on Shutdown. Flashpoint, I think, suffers a little bit from that spawn trapping nature. The attacker side can get spawn trapped pretty easily by people sitting on the main scaffolding and on the main buildings with SPH launchers or the RM68, because that thing's range is kind of insane for its damage rate right now, and you can trap your enemy team fairly easily. I've also got to mention the tick rate of 2042, which I usually don't really complain about in these videos, because when I get affected by it, I kind of just brush it off. There's so much happening in a match with 128 players that I can kind of go, okay, I can jump straight back in and I'm not really worried about being pinged from somewhere that feels a little bit off, because there's so many players and maybe I just got caught with an unlucky bullet. You sometimes don't notice it in those bigger modes like Conquest, but it is incredibly hard to hide in a mode like Shutdown. With 8v8, if you run behind cover and get killed while getting into cover and being behind it, you can tell something's off. The amount of times you get in 1v1 situations is very high, and I've had some hit reg that just hasn't really worked properly, and I'm not quite sure why it's rearing its head more in this mode than others, but I'm assuming it's just because I'm noticing it more because there's that smaller player count. All of these smaller issues combine into kind of souring the experience a little bit, but it's not enough to sour my enjoyment of the mode overall and the event overall. DICE have put a lot of work into this one compared to the previous events, I'm assuming because they've had more resources and time to do so compared to, say, the Liquidators or Battle for Nordvik, and it shows. This one is their best event yet. And although I probably won't play it again after unlocking the cosmetics for this week, just because of that map rotation issue that I'm kind of getting sick of the same maps again and again because there's only 4 of them, I still think this mode is very solid, and if there's a chance of bringing it to, say, Portal as a mode there and having layouts for all the other maps eventually, do that, because that would fix basically all the issues I have apart from tick rate with the mode. Communities could host it and adjust the settings, and it would be amazing, because this mode has such good potential, and we can even organize community events through Portal and have little tournaments. How cool would that be? It would be another thing to bring the community together in a competitive mode, and we could see different communities battling, different teams coming together and fighting in the competitive mode that 2042 now has. Don't let this mode go to waste, keep it in the game permanently. That would be such a good decision in my opinion. Right, I think that's enough ranting for today. Even though I have done a bit of ranting, you know how I feel about this mode if you watched my last video, which if you haven't, go back to last week and have a look at my video on the Leviathan Rising event, because that sums up all my positive thoughts pretty much on it, and that still carries true to now. These issues that I'm mentioning now are just being mentioned here because I don't really want to repeat myself when talking about the positives. The new positives that have popped up I have mentioned here, but it has mostly been negative. But don't get me wrong, there's a lot of work put into this mode and I'm really enjoying it, and so is most of the community, and we appreciate DICE for that. Anyway, let me know what you think of this mode. Are you having a good time with it? Will you play it after you've unlocked all of the cosmetics this week, or will you drop it? Let me know all that good stuff below. If you want to come and talk to me or anybody else that loves this game, head over to the NoSalt Discord. The link is in the description to join there. Thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy, hit like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot and it's free, and I hope to see you in the next video.